The coffee had gone cold in my hands, but I barely noticed. I sat at the kitchen table in our modest two-story house in suburban Ohio, the morning light filtering through the yellow curtains my wife had picked out 3 years ago when we first moved in. The fabric cast a warm glow across the room, but I felt nothing but ice in my veins. My fingers trembled slightly as I held the bank statement, the paper crinkling softly with each small movement. The numbers swam before my eyes, and I had to read them again and again. Somehow I had misunderstood. $47,312. Gone. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of a lawnmower somewhere down the street. It was a Saturday morning in late September, and the air coming through the slightly open window carried the scent of cut grass and the faint sweetness of someone's backyard barbecue starting early. My wife, Jennifer, was upstairs in the shower. I could hear the water running through the old pipes, a familiar sound that usually brought me comfort. Today it felt ominous, like the ticking of a clock counting down to something terrible. My mother had called me the night before, her voice tight with what I thought was concern. She wanted to meet for lunch today, just the two of us. Something important to discuss, she had said. The way she said it made my stomach clench even then. But I had no idea what was coming. I had no idea that my entire world was about to crack open like an egg, spilling everything I thought I knew onto the floor. I heard the shower shut off upstairs. Jennifer would be down soon, her hair wrapped in that blue towel, smelling like her lavender shampoo, asking me what I wanted for breakfast in that cheerful voice she used on weekend mornings. The voice that made me fall in love with her 7 years ago when we met at a friend's wedding. She had been wearing a green dress that matched her eyes, and when she laughed, it sounded like music. I proposed to her on a beach in California 2 years later, the sun setting behind us, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. She cried when she said yes, and I thought I was the luckiest man alive. Now I stare at the bank statement and wondered if I had ever really known her at all. The account was supposed to be our safety net. We had been saving for 5 years, putting away a little bit each month. It was for emergencies, for the future, maybe for a down payment on a bigger house when we decided to have kids. Jennifer handled most of our finances because she was better with numbers, better at keeping track of bills and due dates. I trusted her completely. Why wouldn't I? She was my wife. She was the person I shared my bed with, my dreams with, my life with. I heard her footsteps on the stairs, light and quick. She always moved like that, with a kind of energy that made her seem younger than her 32 years. I folded the bank statement and slipped it into my pocket, my heart hammering against my ribs. I needed to think. I needed to understand what was happening before I confronted her. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe I was jumping to conclusions. She walked into the kitchen, and yes, her hair was wrapped in the blue towel, and yes, she smelled like lavender. She wore my old college sweatshirt, the gray one with the faded logo, and a pair of cotton shorts. Her feet were bare, and I could hear the soft pad of her steps on the linoleum floor. She smiled at me, that same smile that used to make my day better, and I felt something twist painfully in my chest. How could she smile at me like that if she had stolen nearly $50,000 from our account? I must have looked strange because her smile faltered. She tilted her head, and a drop of water fell from her hair onto her shoulder, darkening the fabric of the sweatshirt. "Are you okay?" she asked. "You look pale." "I am fine," I said, but my voice came out rough, like I had swallowed sand. "Just tired. Did not sleep well." She moved to the coffee maker, her back to me now, and started preparing a fresh pot. The sound of the beans grinding filled the kitchen, loud and aggressive. I watched her movements, the familiar way she measured the coffee, the way she hummed softly under her breath, a song I did not recognize. Everything looked normal. Everything looked exactly like it always did on a Saturday morning. But nothing was normal. Nothing would ever be normal again. "Do you want eggs?" she asked over her shoulder. I was thinking of making omelets. "We have those mushrooms you like." "Sure," I said, though the thought of food made me nauseous. "That sounds good." She started pulling ingredients from the refrigerator, setting them on the counter with soft thuds. The eggs, the mushrooms, a block of cheese, some fresh herbs. She moved with practiced efficiency, and I realized I was memorizing this moment, storing away like a photograph. The last normal morning. The last time I could pretend everything was okay. My phone buzzed on the table, and I glanced down. A text from my mother. Looking forward to lunch. Sweetheart. Noon at Rosie's Diner. We need to talk about something important. There was no emoji, no casual sign-off. My mother usually ended her texts with hearts or smiley faces. This message felt cold, formal, ominous. I texted back a simple okay and set the phone down. Jennifer was cracking eggs into a bowl, the shells making small cracking sounds that seemed too loud in the quiet kitchen. I watched her whisk them, her wrist moving in quick circles, and I wanted to ask her right then. I wanted to hold up the bank statement and demand an explanation, but something held me back. Fear, maybe, or the desperate hope that I was wrong about everything. Your mom called last night, I said, trying to keep my voice casual. She wants to meet for lunch. Jennifer's hand paused for just a fraction of a second, the whisk hovering over the bowl. Then she continued, the movement smooth again. Oh, she said, that is nice. You two have not had a one-on-one lunch in a while. Yeah, I said, watching her carefully. She said she has something important to discuss. Jennifer poured the eggs into the heated pan, and they sizzled loudly, filling the air with the smell of butter and cooking eggs. She did not turn around. Did she say what it was about? She asked, and there was something in her voice. Something tight. Something wrong. No, I said, just that it was important. She nodded, still not looking at me, and started adding the mushrooms to the omelet. The kitchen filled with their earthy scent, mixing with the coffee that was now brewing, sending its rich aroma through the room. I used to love Saturday mornings. The slow pace, the good food, the feeling that we had all the time in the world. Now every second felt like torture. I should tell you something, Jennifer said suddenly, and my entire body went rigid. She still had her back to me, her shoulders tense beneath my sweatshirt. I could see the line of her spine, the way she held herself too carefully, like she was bracing for impact. What? I asked, and my voice came out barely above a whisper. She turned off the stove and finally turned to face me. Her eyes were red, and I realized with shock that she had been crying in the shower. That was why she had taken so long. The water had not just been running. It had been covering the sound of her tears. Your mom and I, she started, then stopped. She bit her lip, a habit she had when she was nervous. We had been talking a lot lately. Okay, I said slowly. About what? She looked down at her hands, twisting them together. About you. About us. About the future. The future, I repeated. The word fell hollow. What future? The one where our savings account was empty? The one where my wife and my mother were apparently conspiring behind my back? Jennifer took a deep breath, and I could see her chest rise and fall beneath the sweatshirt. She looked up at me, and there were tears on her cheeks now, catching the yellow light from the curtains. I think you should hear from her first, she said. At lunch. She can explain it better than I can. Explain what? I said, and now my voice was rising. I stood up from the table, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. What is there to explain, Jennifer? What have you two been doing? She flinched at my tone, and fresh tears spilled down her face. Please, she said, just go to lunch. Talk to your mom. Then we can all sit down together and discuss everything. I promise it is not what you think. How do you know what I think? I asked. My hands were shaking, and I shoved them into my pockets, feeling the folded bank statement crumple against my fingers. How do you know what is going on in my head right now? Because I know you, she said softly, and I know you are scared, and angry, and confused, and you have every right to be. But please, just trust me one more time. Go talk to your mother. Let her explain, and then we will figure this out together. Trust you, I said, and the words tasted bitter. I pulled the bank statement from my pocket and unfolded it, holding it up so she could see. Trust you like I trusted you with our savings account? Her face went white. All the color drained from her cheeks, and she grabbed the counter behind her as if she needed support. Oh, God, she whispered. You found out. You were not supposed to find out like this. How was I supposed to find out? I shouted. Were you ever going to tell me? Were you just going to keep stealing from me until there was nothing left? It is not stealing, she said, her voice breaking. It is not like that at all. Please, you have to believe me. Then what is it like? I demanded. Explain it to me. Make me understand how $47,000 just disappeared from our account. She was crying harder now, her whole body shaking. I cannot, she sobbed. I promised your mom I would let her tell you. She made me promise. Please, just go to lunch. Please. I stared at her, this woman I had loved for 7 years, this woman I had married and built a life with. And I felt like I was looking at a stranger. The morning light made her hair glow where it was starting to dry, curling slightly at the ends the way it always did. She looked beautiful and broken and guilty, and I did not know what to do with any of it. I am going, I said finally, my voice cold. But when I get back, I want the truth. All of it. No more secrets. No more lies. She nodded, wiping at her face with the sleeve of the sweatshirt. Okay, she whispered. Okay. I grabbed my keys from the hook by the door and walked out, leaving her standing in the kitchen with the omelet burning in the pan, filling the house with the acrid smell of scorched eggs. I did not look back. The drive to Rosie's diner took 20 minutes, but it felt like hours. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white, and I kept replaying the conversation with Jennifer over and over in my mind. The way she had looked at me, the way she had cried, the way she had refused to explain. And my mother, what did my mother have to do with any of this? She had always been a strong woman, independent and proud. She had raised me alone after my father died when I was 10, working 2 jobs to keep us afloat. She taught me about honesty and integrity, and doing the right thing even when it was hard. How could she be involved in something like this? The diner was busy when I arrived, filled with the Saturday lunch crowd. The smell of fried food and coffee hit me as soon as I walked in, and the noise of conversations and clattering dishes washed over me. I spotted my mother immediately. She was sitting in a booth by the window, her gray hair pulled back in a neat bun, wearing a blue cardigan I had bought her for Christmas last year. She looked up when I walked in, and I saw the same tension in her face that I had heard in her voice on the phone. I slid into the booth across from her, and for a moment we just looked at each other. She had aged in the past few years. I realized there were more lines around her eyes, more gray in her hair. She was 63 now, still working part-time at the library, still living in the same small house where I grew up. She looked tired. She looked worried. She looked guilty. Thank you for coming, she said quietly. Her hands were folded on the table in front of her, and I noticed they were shaking slightly. I found the bank statement. I said without preamble, I know the money is gone. I know you and Jennifer are involved somehow. So just tell me what you have done. She closed her eyes for a moment, and when she opened them, they were wet with tears. Oh, sweetheart, she said. I am so sorry. I am so sorry. A waitress came by, a young woman with a bright smile and a notepad. Can I get you folks something to drink? She asked cheerfully, oblivious of the tension at our table. Just water, I said shortly. I am not hungry. Coffee for me, my mother said. Black. The waitress nodded and walked away, her shoes squeaking on the linoleum floor. I waited until she was out of earshot, then leaned forward. Start talking, I said. Now. My mother took a deep breath, and I could see her gathering her courage. You know I have been having some health problems. She began. I did know. She had mentioned some issues with her heart, some tests her doctor wanted to run, but she had always brushed it off when I asked, saying it was nothing serious, just part of getting older. I nodded, waiting for her to continue. It is more serious than I told you, she said. Much more serious. I need surgery, a valve replacement, and the insurance. She paused, her voice breaking. The insurance will not cover all of it, not even close. How much? I asked, though I was starting to have a terrible suspicion. With the surgery, the hospital stay, the recovery care, she said slowly, about $45,000 out of pocket. The number hit me like a physical blow. I sat back against the booth, the vinyl creaking beneath me. So you took our money, I said. You and Jennifer took our savings to pay for your surgery. She shook her head quickly. No, she said, not exactly. I did not want to take anything from you. I told Jennifer I would figure out on my own. I was going to sell the house, or take out a loan, or something. But she stopped, pressing her lips together. What I prompted. She insisted, my mother said. She came to me about 3 months ago. She said she had been thinking about it, and she wanted to help. She said you two have been saving that money for emergencies, and this was an emergency. She said family takes care of family. The waitress returned with our drinks, setting them down with a smile. Ready to order? She asked. Not yet, I said, not looking at her. Give us a few minutes. She left again, and I wrapped my hands around the water glass, feeling the cold condensation against my palms. Why did you not tell me? I asked. Why did you let her do this behind my back? Because I knew you would say no, my mother said, and there was a flash of something in her eyes. Anger, maybe, or frustration. I knew you would insist on talking about it, on finding other options, on making it a big family discussion. And I did not have time for that. The surgery needs to happen soon, within the next month. And Jennifer understood that. She understood that sometimes you have to act quickly, even if it means making hard choices. Hard choices, I repeated. You mean lying to me, stealing from me. It was not stealing, my mother said firmly. Jennifer has every right to that money. It is a joint account, and she was using it for something important, something that could save my life. But it was not her decision to make alone, I said, my voice rising. We are supposed to be partners. We are supposed to make these decisions together. She had no right to take that money, without even talking to me about it. Would you have said yes? My mother asked, leaning forward. If Jennifer had come to you and said she wanted to give me $45,000 for surgery, would you have agreed? I opened my mouth to answer, then close it again. Would I have? I wanted to say yes. Of course I would have. She was my mother. I loved her. I would do anything to help her. But $45,000 was everything we had saved. It was our security, our future. And there was a part of me, a small, shameful part, that was not sure I would have been willing to give it all up, even for her. My mother saw the hesitation on my face, and she nodded slowly. That is what Jennifer was afraid of, she said softly. She knew you would struggle with it. She knew you would want to find other ways, cheaper ways, slower ways. And she did not want to put you in that position. She did not want you to have to choose between your mother and your future. So she chose for me, I said bitterly. She took away my choice entirely. She was trying to protect you, my mother said, from having to make an impossible decision, from having to live with guilt either way. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Well, she failed, I said, because now I feel guilty anyway, and angry, and betrayed. And I do not know if I can ever trust her again. My mother reached across the table and took my hand. Her skin was cool and papery, and I could feel the bones beneath. She loves you, she said, more than anything. She did this because she loves you, and because she loves me. She was trying to do the right thing. The right thing would have been to tell me the truth, I said. The right thing would have been to trust me enough to include me in the decision. You are right, my mother said. You are absolutely right. And she knows that. She has been sick with guilt for months. She cries herself to sleep some nights. I hear it when she calls me. She wanted to tell you so many times. But I kept asking her to wait. I kept saying I would tell you when the time was right. And then the time was never right. And it just got worse and worse. I pulled my hand away and rubbed my face, feeling the stubble on my jaw. I had not shaved that morning. I had been too distracted by the bank statement, by the missing money, by the feeling that my life was falling apart. When is the surgery? I asked. 2 weeks from Monday, she said. October 15th. And you have already paid. I asked. The money is already gone. Most of it, she said. There's a deposit that was non-refundable. About $10,000. The rest is due the day of the surgery. So we could get some of it back, I said, if we canceled. My mother's face went pale. You want to cancel? She whispered. I do not know what I want, I said honestly. I am so angry right now I can barely think straight. But I need time to process this. I need time to figure out how I feel about all of it. I do not have time, my mother said, and now her voice was shaking. The doctor said if I wait much longer, I might not survive. This is not elective surgery. Sweetheart, this is life or death. The words hung in the air between us, heavy and terrible. Life or death. My mother's life. The woman who had raised me, who had sacrificed everything for me, who had worked herself to exhaustion to give me a good childhood after my father died. How could I even consider taking that money back? How could I even think about canceling her surgery? But how could I forgive Jennifer for lying to me? For going behind my back? For making a decision this huge without even consulting me? I did not know what to do, I said, and I was horrified to feel tears burning in my eyes. I do not know how to fix this. You do not have to fix anything, my mother said gently. You just have to decide if you can forgive us. If you can understand why we did what we did, even if it was wrong, even if it hurt you. I need to think, I said, standing up abruptly. The booth creaked as I moved, and a few people at nearby tables glanced over. I need some time alone. Of course, my mother said, take all the time you need. But please, she added as I started to walk away, please do not hate Jennifer for this. She was just trying to help. She was just trying to save me. I did not answer. I could not. I walked out of the diner into the bright September afternoon, the sun warm on my face, the air still carrying that smell of cut grass and barbecue. Everything looked normal. People were going about their Saturday, shopping and eating and laughing. The world had not stopped turning just because mine had fallen apart. I got in my car, but did not start the engine. I just sat there, gripping the steering wheel, trying to breathe through the tightness in my chest. My phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. How did it go? Are you okay? Do you want me to come meet you? I stared at the message for a long time, then turned off my phone without responding. I did not know what to say to her. I did not know what to say to anyone. I drove around for hours, no destination in mind, just moving through the familiar streets of our town, past the park where Jennifer and I had our first date, a picnic under the oak trees, past the church where we got married, the white steeple reaching up into the blue sky, past my childhood home, where my mother still lived, the house looking smaller and more worn than I remembered. Every place held memories, and every memory felt tainted now, colored by this betrayal. It was dark when I finally went home. The house was lit up, warm light spilling for the windows, and I could see Jennifer's silhouette moving in the kitchen. She was waiting for me. Of course she was. She had probably been waiting all day, sick with worry, wondering what I was thinking, what I was going to do. I sat in the driveway for a few minutes, gathering my courage. Then I got out of the car and walked to the front door. It opened before I could reach for the handle, and Jennifer stood there, her face pale and anxious. She had changed clothes, wearing jeans and a soft sweater, and her hair was down around her shoulders. She looked like she had been crying for hours. I am so sorry, she said immediately, the words tumbling out. I am so sorry. I should have told you. I should have talked to you. I know I messed up. I know I broke your trust. But please let me explain. I walked past her into the house, and she followed me, closing the door softly behind us. The living room was tidy, the cushions on the couch arranged neatly, a candle burning on the coffee table. It smelled like vanilla and cinnamon, a scent that usually made me feel at home. Tonight, it just made me feel sad. I sat down on the couch, and Jennifer sat across from me in the armchair, perched on the edge like she was ready to run if I told her to leave. We looked at each other across the small space, and I could see the fear in her eyes, the desperate hope that I would understand, that I would forgive her. My mom told me everything, I said, about the surgery, about the money, about why you did it. Jennifer nodded, twisting her hands together in her lap. I wanted to tell you so many times, she said. Every day I wanted to tell you, but I was scared. I was scared you'd be angry, or that you would try to stop it, or that you would insist on finding another way. And there was no other way. Your mom needed that surgery, and she needed it soon, and we had the money to help her. We had the money, I said. Past tense. Now we have nothing. We have each other, she said softly. That is not nothing. Is it enough, I asked. Is it enough to rebuild on? After you lied to me for months? She flinched like I had hit her. I know I hurt you, she said. I know I damaged something between us. But I did it because I love you. I did it because I could not stand the thought of you losing your mother when we had the power to save her. I did it because I thought it was the right thing to do, even if it was a hard thing. You took away my choice, I said. You decided for both of us without even asking me what I thought. How is that love? How is that partnership? Because sometimes, she said, her voice breaking, sometimes love means making the hard choices so the person you love does not have to. Sometimes it means carrying the burden yourself, so they do not have to feel the weight of it. I knew if I told you, you would struggle with the decision. You would agonize over it. You would feel guilty no matter what you chose. And I did not want that for you. I want to protect you from that. By lying to me, I said. By go behind my back. That is not protection, Jennifer. That is betrayal. She started crying then, silent tears streaming down her face. I know, she whispered. I know it was wrong. I know I should have trusted you more. Should have believed that you would make the right choice. But I was so scared. I was scared of losing your mom. I was scared of you having to live with the guilt if something happened to her, and we had not helped. I was scared of everything falling apart. It is falling apart anyway, I said, and my voice was hollow. Because now I do not know if I can trust you. I do not know if I can believe anything you say. How do I know you will not make another huge decision without me? How do I know you will not lie to me again the next time you think you are protecting me? You do not, she said simply. You just have to decide if you believe me when I say I will never do anything like this again. You have to decide if you believe that I learned from this mistake, that I understand now how much I hurt you and how wrong I was. I leaned back against the couch, exhausted. The candle flickered on the coffee table, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Outside, I could hear the sound of a car passing, the distant bark of a dog. Normal sounds. Normal life continuing while mine hung in the balance. I need you to understand something, I said finally. This is not just about the money. It is about respect. It is about treating me like an equal partner in this marriage. You made a decision that affected both of our lives, both of our futures, and you did not even give me a voice in it. That is not how marriage works. That is not how any of this works. You are right, she said. You are absolutely right. And I am sorry. I am so sorry. If I could go back and do it differently, I would. I would sit down with you and tell you everything, and let us make the decision together. But I cannot go back. I can only move forward. And I am asking you, begging you, to move forward with me, to give me a chance to earn back your trust. I do not know if I can, I said honestly. I do not know if I am strong enough to get past this. Then let me be strong for both of us, she said. Let me show you that I can be the partner you deserve. Let me prove to you that this was a mistake, a terrible mistake, but not the end of us. What about my mom? I asked. The surgery is in 2 weeks. The money is already committed. What happens now? The surgery happens, Jennifer said firmly. No matter what happens between us, your mom gets that surgery. That is not negotiable. That is not something I will ever regret, even if it costs me everything else. And what if it does? I asked. What if it costs you us? What if I cannot get past this? She was quiet for a long moment, and I could see the pain in her eyes, the fear of losing me. Then I will have to live with that, she said softly. I will have to live with knowing that I saved your mother's life, but lost you in the process, and it will break my heart. But I will still know I did the right thing. Her words hit me hard, and I felt something shift inside me. She was not making excuses. She was not trying to minimize what she had done. She was owning it, accepting the consequences, and still standing by her decision to help my mother. There was a kind of courage in that, a kind of integrity, even if it was wrapped up in deception. I need time, I said. I need space to think about all of this, to figure out how I feel and what I want. Okay, she said, nodding. How much time? I do not know, I said. Days, weeks, maybe longer. Should I stay somewhere else? She asked, and I could hear the fear in her voice. Do you want me to leave? I thought about it. The idea of her leaving, of the house being empty, of sleeping alone in our bed. It felt wrong. As angry as I was, as hurt as I was, I did not want her gone. Not yet. Not like this. No, I said. Stay. But I need you to give me space. I need you to let me work through this without pushing me or trying to fix it. I can do that, she said. I can give you all the space you need. We sat in silence for a while, the candle burning down, the vanilla scent growing fainter. I thought about everything that had happened, everything that had been said, my mother's surgery, the missing money, Jennifer's tears, the years we had spent together, building a life, building a future. Was it all worth throwing away over this? Or was this something we could survive, something that could make us stronger if we found a way through it? I do not have the answers tonight. I said finally, standing up, I am going to bed. We can talk more tomorrow. Okay, Jennifer said, standing as well. She looked like she wanted to hug me, to touch me, to bridge the distance between us. But she held back. Good night, she said softly. Good night, I replied, and walked upstairs to our bedroom. I lay in bed for hours, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of Jennifer moving around downstairs. Eventually, I heard her come up, heard her pause outside the bedroom door, then heard her footsteps continue down the hall to the guest room. The door closed softly, and the house fell silent. I did not sleep that night. I just lay there, thinking about choices and consequences, about love and betrayal, about what it meant to be a family. And somewhere in the dark hours before dawn, I started to understand something. Jennifer had made a choice, and it was a wrong choice in terms of how she went about it. But the core of that choice, the heart of it, was love. Love for my mother. Love for me. Love for our family. And maybe, just maybe, that was something worth fighting for. The next 2 weeks were strange and difficult. Jennifer and I moved around each other carefully, like dancers learning new steps. We talked, but not about anything important. We ate meals together, but in silence. We existed in the same space, but felt miles apart. She kept her promise to give me space, never pushing, never demanding answers I was not ready to give. I visited my mother several times during those weeks. We talked about the surgery, about her fears and hopes. She apologized again and again for her part in the deception, and I could see the guilt weighing on her. But I could also see the relief in her eyes, the knowledge that she was going to get the help she needed, that she had a chance at more years, more life. How can I be angry at that? I asked myself. How can I resent the fact that my wife loved my mother enough to save her life? But the anger was still there, simmering beneath the surface, not at the act itself, but at the method, at the lies, at the exclusion, at the fundamental disrespect of making such a huge decision without me. I talked to a friend, Mark, who I had known since college. We met for drinks one evening, and I told him everything. He listened without interrupting, nursing his beer, his face thoughtful. That is rough, man, he said when I finished. I do not envy you the situation. What would you do, I asked, if you were me? He was quiet for a moment, then shrugged. I do not know, he said honestly. On one hand, she lied to you. That is a big deal. Trust is everything in a marriage. But on the other hand, she did it for a good reason. She was trying to save your mom's life. That counts for something. Does it count enough? I asked. Only you can answer that, he said. But I will say this. You have been with Jennifer for 7 years. In all that time, has she ever given you a reason not to trust her? Has she ever lied to you about anything else? I thought about it. No, I said slowly. Never. She has always been honest with me. Sometimes brutally honest. Then maybe this was a one-time thing, Mark said. A mistake made out of desperation and love. Maybe it does not define who she is or who you are together. Or maybe it is a sign of something deeper, I said. A sign that she does not really see me as an equal, that she thinks she knows better than me. Do you really believe that, Mark asked, looking at me intently. Do you really think Jennifer sees you as less than her? I did not answer right away. I thought about all the years we had been together, all the decisions we had made as a team, buying the house, choosing careers, planning our future, In all those things, Jennifer had always consulted me, always valued my opinion. This was the first time she had acted alone, the first time she had excluded me. No, I said finally. I do not think she sees me as less than her. I think she was scared and desperate and made a bad choice. But I do not think it came from a place of disrespect. Then you have your answer, Mark said. You are hurt, and you have every right to be. But if you love her, if you want to save your marriage, you are going to have to find a way to forgive her. I do not know if I can, I said. Yes, you do, Mark said. You are just scared. Scared of being vulnerable again. Scared of trusting her and having her hurt you. But that is what love is, man. It is choosing to be vulnerable. It is choosing to trust even when it is hard. His words stayed with me as I drove home that night. The streets were quiet. The house is dark except for the occasional porch light. I thought about vulnerability and trust, about love and forgiveness. I thought about my mother, who would be going into surgery in just a few days. I thought about Jennifer, sleeping alone in the guest room, waiting for me to decide our fate. When I got home, the house was dark except for a light in the kitchen. I walked in and found Jennifer sitting at the table, a cup of tea in front of her, staring out the window into the darkness. She looked up when I entered, and I could see the exhaustion on her face, the toll these weeks had taken on her. Cannot sleep? I asked. She shook her head. Too much on my mind, she said. How was your evening? Good, I said. I had drinks with Mark. How is he? She asked, and there was a wistfulness in her voice. I realized she had been isolated these past weeks, cut off from our friends, from our normal life, waiting in limbo for me to make a decision. He is good, I said. We talked about us, about everything that happened. What did he say? She asked quietly. He said, I need to decide if I can forgive you, I said, if I can move past this and rebuild our trust. And can you? She asked, and I could hear the fear in her voice, the desperate hope. I sat down across from her, in the same spot where I had sat 2 weeks ago, when I first found the bank statement. It felt like a lifetime ago. I am trying, I said. I am really trying. But it is hard. Every time I think I am okay, I remember the lies, and I get angry all over again. I understand, she said, and I do not blame you. I would feel the same way if you had done this to me. But here is the thing, I said, leaning forward. I have been thinking a lot about why you did it. And I understand now that you were trying to protect me. You were trying to save me from having to make an impossible choice. And while I still think you were wrong to lie, I understand the love behind it. Her eyes filled with tears. Does that mean you forgive me? She whispered. I am working on it, I said. It is not going to happen overnight. It is going to take time. But I want to try. I want to find a way back to us. She reached across the table and took my hand, and I let her. Her skin was warm, and I could feel her pulse racing beneath my fingers. Thank you, she said, her voice breaking. Thank you for giving me another chance. There have to be rules, I said, going forward. We have to be completely honest with each other. No more secrets. No more making big decisions alone. We are partners, and we need to act like it. I agree, she said immediately. Completely. Whatever you need. Whatever it takes. And we need to talk to someone, I said. A counselor or therapist. Someone who can help us work through this and make sure it never happens again. Okay, she said, nodding. I will find someone. I will make the appointments. Whatever you want. We sat there for a long time, holding hands across the table, not saying anything. The house was quiet around us, and through the window I could see the first hints of dawn starting to lighten the sky. A new day, a new beginning. Maybe. My mother's surgery was scheduled for Monday morning at 7. Jennifer and I drove to the hospital together. The first time we had been in the car together in weeks. The drive was quiet, both of us lost in our own thoughts. I could feel the tension radiating from Jennifer, her worry for my mother mixing with her worry about us. We met my mother in the pre-op area. She looked small in a hospital gown, her gray hair covered by a surgical cap, and 4 already in her arm. But she smiled when she saw us, and I could see the courage in her eyes, the determination to get through this. How are you feeling? I asked, taking her hand. Nervous, she admitted, but ready to get this over with and start healing. You are going to be fine, Jennifer said, standing on the other side of the bed. You are strong. You are to come through this beautifully. My mother looked between us, and I could see the question in her eyes. Are you two okay? She asked. Have you worked things out? We are working on it, I said, taking it one day at a time. That is all anyone can do, my mother said. She squeezed my hand. I am sorry again for my part in all of this. I never meant to cause problems between you two. I know, I said, and I forgive you. I understand why you did what you did. A nurse came in then, checking monitors and asking questions. The surgeon will be in shortly, she said. We should be taking you back in about 15 minutes. Those 15 minutes felt both endless and far too short. We made small talk, avoiding the heavy topics, trying to keep things light. My mother told us about a book she had been reading, a mystery novel she could not put down. Jennifer talked about a new recipe she wanted to try. I just held my mother's hand and tried not to think about all the things that could go wrong. When they came to take her back, we both hugged her carefully, mindful of the floor and the monitors. I love you, Mom, I said. I will be right here when you wake up. I love you too, sweetheart, she said. Both of you. Thank you for everything. They wheeled her away, and Jennifer and I were left standing in the empty pre-op bay, the smell of antiseptic sharp in the air. She turned to me, and I could see the tears on her face. She is going to be okay, she said, but it sounded like she was trying to convince herself as much as me. She is, I agreed, and pulled her into a hug. It was the first time I had really held her in weeks, and it felt both familiar and strange. She wrapped her arms around me and buried her face in my chest, and I could feel her shaking with silent sobs. I am so scared, she whispered. What if something goes wrong? What if I push for the surgery and something terrible happens? Then it would not be your fault. I said firmly, you did not cause her heart problems. You did not make her need surgery. You just made it possible for her to get the help she needs. That is all. We went to the waiting room, a large space filled with uncomfortable chairs and outdated magazines. There were few of the people there, all wearing the same expression of anxious waiting. We found seats in a corner and settled in for what the surgeon had said would be a 4 to 5 hour procedure. The time crawled by. We tried to read, but neither of us could focus. We got coffee from the cafeteria, but it tasted like cardboard. We made awkward small talk, then fell into silence. Every time someone in scrubs walked by, we both looked up hopefully, but it was never for us. Around hour 3, Jennifer spoke suddenly. I have been thinking, she said, about the money, about what we lost. I do not want to talk about that right now. I said, let us just focus on Mom. No, she said, I need to say this. I need you to know that I am going to pay it back. Every penny. I am going to pick up extra shifts at work. I am going to cut back on everything. I am going to do whatever it takes to rebuild our savings. Jennifer, I said, but she held up a hand. Please, she said, let me finish. I know it will take time, maybe years, but I am going to do it. I am going to fix what I broke. We will do it together, I said. It is not just your responsibility. It is ours. We are a team, remember? She looked at me, and fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. You mean that? She asked. You really want to work through this with me? I do, I said, and realized as I said it that it was true. I was still hurt. I was still angry, but I loved her, and I wanted to find a way back to what we had been, or maybe to something even stronger. She took my hand, and we sat there together, waiting for news about my mother, waiting for our future to unfold. It was hour 4 when the surgeon finally came out. He was a tall man with kind eyes, still wearing his surgical scrubs. He smiled when he saw us, and I felt the tension drain from my body. That smile meant good news. It had to. The surgery went very well, he said as we stood to meet him. We replaced the valve successfully, and her heart is responding beautifully. She is in recovery now, and you should be able to see her in about an hour. Thank you, I said, shaking his hand. Thank you so much. She is a strong woman, he said. She came through like a champ. I expect a full recovery. After he left, Jennifer and I just stood there for a moment, letting the relief wash over us. Then she turned to me and threw her arms around my neck, and I held her tight, feeling her heart beating against mine. "We made it," she whispered. "She made it." "We did," I agreed. "We all did." When we finally got to see my mother, she was groggy from the anesthesia, but awake. She smiled weakly when she saw us. "Did I make it?" she asked, her voice hoarse. "You made it," I said, taking her hand. "The surgeon said everything went perfectly." "Good," she murmured, her eyes already closing again. "That is good." We stayed with her until she fell asleep, then went home to get some rest ourselves. The house felt different when we walked in, lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted. Jennifer went upstairs, and I heard her moving around in the guest room, gathering her things. When she came into our bedroom, she had her pillow and a change of clothes. She looked at me uncertainly. "Is it okay?" she asked. "Can I sleep here tonight?" I pulled back the covers on her side of the bed. "Come here," I said. She climbed in beside me, and we lay there in the darkness, not touching but close enough to feel each other's warmth. I could hear her breathing, slow and steady, and I realized how much I had missed this. The simple comfort of having her near. "I am sorry," she whispered into the darkness. "For everything. For all of it." "I know," I said, "and I am sorry, too. For shutting you out these past weeks. For making you suffer." "You had every right," she said. "Maybe," I said, but it did not make either of us feel better. We were quiet for a while, and I thought she had fallen asleep. But then she spoke again, her voice soft. "Do you think we're going to be okay? Really okay?" "I think so," I said. "It is going to take work. It is going to take time. But I think we can get there." "I want to get there," she said. "I want us to be stronger than we were before. I want to be the wife you deserve." "You are," I said. "You made a mistake. A big one. But you are still the woman I fell in love with. You are still the person I want to spend my life with." She rolled over then, and I felt her hand find mine in the darkness. "I love you," she said. "So much." "I love you too," I said, and meant it. The next few months were a journey. My mother recovered slowly but steadily, gaining strength each day. Jennifer and I started seeing a counselor, a kind woman named Dr. Martinez, who helped us work through the trust issues and communication problems. It was hard work, sometimes painful, but we both committed to it. We learned how to talk to each other better, how to make decisions together, how to be truly honest even when it was difficult. We also started rebuilding our savings, just as Jennifer had promised. She picked up extra shifts at her job as a nurse, and I took on some freelance work in the evenings. We cut back on eating out, on unnecessary expenses, on all the little luxuries we had taken for granted. It was not easy, but we did together, and somehow that made it bearable. One evening about 6 months after the surgery, we were sitting at the kitchen table going over our budget. Jennifer had a spreadsheet open on her laptop, and I was making notes on a pad of paper. We had managed to save back about $8,000, a small fraction of what we had lost, but a start. "You know what?" Jennifer said suddenly, looking up from the computer. "I am proud of us." "Yeah," I said, smiling. "Me too. Not just because of the money," she said, "but because we did not give up. We could have let this destroy us. A lot of couples would have. But we fought for each other. We fought for us." "We did," I agreed, "and we are still fighting. Every day." She closed the laptop and came around the table to sit on my lap, wrapping her arms around my neck. "I love you," she said. "Thank you for not giving up on me." "Thank you for not giving up on us," I said, and kissed her. My mother came over for dinner that weekend, looking healthier than she had in years. The surgery had given her a new lease on life, and she was taking full advantage of it. She had started volunteering at the library more, had joined a book club, had even started dating a man she met at the community center. She was happy, truly happy, and seeing that made everything we had been through feel worth it. Over dinner, she told us stories about her book club, about the terrible romance novel they were reading, about the heated debates they had over the characters' choices. We laughed together, the three of us, and it felt like old times. Better than old times, actually, because now there were no secrets between us. Everything was out in the open, dealt with, forgiven. After dinner, My mother helped Jennifer with the dishes while I made coffee. I could hear them talking and laughing in the kitchen, and I felt a deep sense of contentment. This was my family. Imperfect, complicated, but mine. And I would not trade it for anything. Before she left, my mother pulled me aside. "I want you to know something," she said. "What Jennifer did, giving up your savings for my surgery, that was one of the most selfless things anyone has ever done for me. And I know it caused problems between you two. I know it was hard. But I hope you know how lucky you are to have someone who loves you that much, who loves your family that much." "I do know," I said, "and I am grateful. Every day." "Good," she said, patting my cheek the way she used to when I was a child. "Hold on to that. Hold on to her. Do not let the hard times make you forget the good." "I will not," I promised. After she left, Jennifer and I cleaned up the rest of the kitchen together, moving in the comfortable rhythm we had developed over years of shared domesticity. She washed, I dried. She hummed softly, a song I did not recognize, and I found myself humming along. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, glancing at me. "How far we have come," I said. 6 months ago. I did not know if we were going to make it. And now, here we are. Here we are," she echoed, smiling, stronger than before. "Are we?" I asked. "Do you really think so?" She put down the dish she was washing and turned to face me, her hands dripping soapy water onto the floor. "I know so," she said, "because we went through the worst thing that could happen to us. And we came out the other side. We learned how to forgive, how to rebuild, how to trust again. That is not something everyone can do." "You are right," I said, pulling her close despite the wet hands. "We did do that. We did the hard work. And we're going to keep doing it," she said, "every day, for the rest of our lives." That night, lying in bed with Jennifer curled up beside me, I thought about everything that had happened, the betrayal, the anger, the hurt, but also the love, the forgiveness, the healing. Life was not simple. Relationships were not simple. People made mistakes, sometimes big ones, and you had to decide if those mistakes defined them or if they were just part of the messy, complicated process of being human. Jennifer had made a mistake, a huge one, but she had made it out of love, and she had owned it, and she had worked tirelessly to make it right. And I had made mistakes too. I had shut her out. I had let my anger control me. I had almost thrown away the best thing in my life because I was too hurt to see past my own pain. But we had found our way back to each other, and that, I realized, was what mattered most. A year after the surgery, we had saved back $23,000. We were more than halfway to our goal, and we were doing it together. Our marriage was stronger than it had ever been. We communicated better. We trusted each other more deeply. We had learned that love was not just about the easy times, the happy moments, the perfect days. It was about showing up for each other even when things were hard, especially when things were hard. We decided to have a small celebration, just the two of us. We went back to the beach where I had proposed to her all those years ago. It was a warm summer evening, and the sun was setting in the same spectacular way it had that first time, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and purple. We walked along the shore, our feet sinking into the wet sand, the waves lapping at our ankles. Jennifer held my hand, and I could feel the strength in her grip, the certainty. We had been through fire, and we had come out tempered, stronger, better. "Do you remember what you said when you proposed to me?" she asked, looking out at the water. I said I wanted to spend the rest of my life with you. I said I could not imagine a future without you in it. "Do you still feel that way?" she asked, turned to look at me. "After everything?" "More than ever," I said, "because now I know what we are capable of. I know that we can survive anything as long as we face it together." She smiled, and it was the same smile that had made me fall in love with her all those years ago. The smile that lit up her whole face, that made her eyes sparkle, that made me feel like the luckiest man in the world. "I love you," she said. "Thank you for giving me a second chance." "Thank you for being worth it," I said, and kissed her as the sun dipped below the horizon. We stood there for a long time, wrapped in each other's arms, listening to the sound of the waves and the cry of the seagulls. The world kept turning, life kept moving forward, but in that moment, We were exactly where we needed to be. Together. The drive home was quiet, both of us lost in our own thoughts, but it was a comfortable silence, the kind that comes from truly knowing someone, from being known by them. When we got home, there was a message on the answer machine from my mother. She sounded excited, almost giddy. "Call me back," she said. "I have news." I dialed her number, and she picked up on the first ring. "Guess what?" she said, not even waiting for me to say hello. "What?" I asked, smiling at her enthusiasm. "Richard proposed," she said. "We are getting married." Richard was a man she had been dating, a retired teacher with a kind face and a gentle manner. I had met him a few times and liked him immediately. "That is wonderful, Mom," I said. "I am so happy for you." "I never thought I would find love again at my age," she said, and I could hear the joy in her voice. But here I am, getting a second chance at happiness. Life is funny that way. It is, I agreed, looking at Jennifer, who was watching me with curious eyes. Life is full of second chances, if we are brave enough to take them. After I hung up, I told Jennifer the news, and she squealed with delight. "We have to throw them an engagement party," she said immediately. "Something small, but special. What do you think?" "I think that is a perfect idea," I said. Over the next few weeks, we planned the party, working together to make it something my mother would love. We invited her friend from the library and the book club, Richard's family, our close friends. We decorated our backyard with string lights and flowers, set up tables with food and drinks, created a space that felt warm and welcoming. The night of the party, I watched my mother and Richard dancing in our backyard, the string lights twinkling above them, their faces glowing with happiness. Jennifer came up beside me and slipped her hand into mine. "They look good together," she said. "They do," I agreed. "She deserves this. After everything she has been through, she deserves to be happy." "We all do," Jennifer said softly. "And we are. Despite everything, we are." She was right. We were happy. Not in the simple, uncomplicated way we had been before, but in a deeper, more meaningful way. We had been tested, and we had passed. We had been broken, and we had healed. We had lost something precious, but we had gained something even more valuable: understanding, forgiveness, true partnership. As the party wound down and guests started to leave, my mother pulled Jennifer and me aside. "I want to thank you both," she said, "for everything, for the surgery, yes, but also for this, for celebrating with me, for being my family." "You are our family," Jennifer said, hugging her. "Always. And I want you to know," my mother continued, looking at me, "that I see how hard you two have worked this past year. I see how you have grown together, and I am so proud of you both." "Thanks, Mom," I said, my throat tight with emotion. "That means a lot." After everyone had gone and we had cleaned up, Jennifer and I sat on the back porch, looking up at the stars. The night was cool, and I could smell the last of the summer flowers, their scent sweet and fading. Jennifer leaned her head on my shoulder, and I wrapped my arm around her. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you had not found that bank statement?" she asked. "If I had managed to keep the secret until after the surgery?" "Sometimes," I admitted, "but I do not think it would have stayed secret. The truth has a way of coming out eventually." "You are right," she said. "And it is better that it came out when it did. Better that we dealt with it head on instead of letting it fester." "Do you regret it?" I asked. "What you did?" She was quiet for a long moment, thinking. "I regret the way I did it," she said finally. "I regret lying to you and going behind your back. But I do not regret helping your mom. I would do that part again in a heartbeat." "I know," I said, "and I understand that now. It took me a while, but I get it." We sat there in comfortable silence, watching the stars, feeling the cool breeze on our faces. Life had thrown us a curveball, and we had stumbled, but we had not fallen. We had caught each other. We had held on, and we had come through it together. 2 years after the surgery, we finally reached our savings goal. We had $47,312 back in our account, the exact amount that had been there before. Jennifer cried when we checked the balance, tears of relief and pride and accomplishment streaming down her face. "We did it," she said. "We actually did it." "We did," I agreed, holding her close. Together. That night, we went out to dinner to celebrate, to a nice restaurant we had not been able to afford during our savings push. We ordered wine and appetizers and entrees, and we toasted to our success, to our marriage, to our future. "I have been thinking," Jennifer said as we waited for our food, "about what we should do with the money." "Keep saving," I said. "Build it back up even more. Maybe start thinking about that bigger house." She shook her head. "I think we should do something else first," she said. "Something important." "What?" I asked. "I think we should donate some of it," she said, "to a fund that helps people who cannot afford medical care. People like your mom, who need surgery but do not have the money. We could help them the way we helped her." "Ich stellte her," surprised. "That would mean starting over," I said. "Saving from scratch again." "I know," she said, "but think about it. We know how lucky we were to have that money when we needed it. Not everyone is that lucky. We could make a difference for someone else. We could give them the same chance we gave your mom." I thought about it, about the idea of taking the money we had worked so hard to save back and giving it away. A year ago, even 6 months ago, I would have said no immediately. But now, after everything we had been through, after all we had learned about what really mattered, it felt right. "How much are you thinking?" I asked. 10,000, she said. "Enough to make a real difference, but not so much that we are back to zero." I reached across the table and took her hand. "You are an amazing person," I said. "Do you know that?" She smiled. "I learn from the best." She said. We made the donation the next week, setting up a fund in my mother's name at the local hospital. It would help people who needed cardiac surgery but could not afford it, giving them the same second chance my mother had received. When we told her about it, she cried, overwhelmed by the gesture. "You did not have to do that," she said. "That money was yours. You worked so hard to save it back. And now it is going to help someone else," Jennifer said. "Someone who needs it as much as you did. That feels right to us." My mother hugged us both, holding on tight. "You two are the best thing that ever happened to me," she said. "Both of you." Life settled into a new normal after that. We kept saving, but with less urgency, less desperation. We had learned that money was important, but it was not everything. What mattered was the people you loved, the relationships you built, the choices you made when things got hard. Jennifer and I continued with counseling, even though we did not really need it anymore. Dr. Martinez had become a friend, a trusted advisor, and we valued her perspective. She helped us navigate the smaller challenges that came up, the everyday disagreements and misunderstandings that were part of any marriage. She reminded us to keep communicating, to keep being honest, to keep choosing each other every day. My mother married Richard in a small ceremony at the courthouse, with just Jennifer and me and Richard's daughter as witnesses. It was simple and sweet, and seeing my mother so happy made my heart full. She had found love again after thinking that chapter of her life was over. She had been given a second chance, and she was making the most of it. At the reception, which we held at our house, Richard gave a toast. He talked about how grateful he was to have found my mother, how she had brought joy and light back into his life. And then he turned to Jennifer and me. "I also want to thank you, too," he said, "for taking such good care of her, for making sure she got the surgery she needed. She told me what you sacrificed, and I want you to know that I will spend the rest of my life making sure that sacrifice was worth it. I will love her and care for her and make her happy. That is my promise to you." I felt tears prick my eyes, and I saw that Jennifer was crying too. "Thank you," I said. "That means everything." After the reception, as we were cleaning up, Jennifer found me in the kitchen. I was washing dishes, lost in thought, and she came up behind me and wrapped her arms around my waist, resting her cheek against my back. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "Everything," I said. "How much has changed in the past few years? How different our lives are now. Better or worse?" she asked. "Better," I said without hesitation. "Definitely better." "Even with everything we went through?" she asked. "All the pain and the fighting and the doubt?" "Especially because of that," I said, turning to face her, "because it taught us what we are made of. It taught us that we are strong enough to survive anything as long as we are together. She smiled and kissed me, and I tasted salt from her tears. I love you, she said. So much. I love you too, I said. Always. 3 years after the surgery, Jennifer came to me with news. She was pregnant. We had not been trying, had not really talked about kids in any serious way. But there it was, a baby, a new life, a new chapter. I was terrified and thrilled in equal measure. We were finally getting our savings back to a comfortable level, finally feeling stable again. A baby would change everything. But as I looked at Jennifer's face, glowing with happiness and hope, I knew it was going to be okay. We had been through worse. We had survived worse. We could handle this. The pregnancy was not easy. Jennifer had morning sickness that lasted all day, and she was exhausted all the time, but she never complained. She just kept going, kept working, kept being the strong, amazing woman I had fallen in love with. I tried to support her as much as I could, taking over more of the household chores, making sure she rested, being there for her in whatever way she needed. My mother was over the moon about becoming a grandmother. She started knitting baby blankets and buying tiny clothes, filling our house with reminders of the life that was coming. Richard was excited too, talking about teaching the baby to fish and read, and all the things he had done with his own grandchildren. One evening, about 6 months into the pregnancy, Jennifer and I were sitting on the couch, her feet in my lap as I rubbed them. She had been on her feet all day at work, and they were swollen and sore. The television was on, but neither of us was really watching it. We were just being together, comfortable in the silence. I had been thinking about names. Jennifer said suddenly, "Yeah," I said. "Any ideas?" "If it is a girl," she said, "I want to name her Grace, after your mom." I looked at her, surprised. My mother's name was Margaret, but her middle name was Grace, and she had always preferred it. Really, I asked, "You want to name our daughter after my mom?" She saved our marriage. Jennifer said simply, if she had not gotten sick, if we had not gone through everything we went through because of her surgery, I do not think we would be here right now. I think we would have coasted along, never really deal with our issues, never really learning how to be true partners. She gave us that gift, even if she did not mean to. I want to honor that. I felt my throat tighten with emotion. "That is beautiful," I said. "Mom would love that. And if it is a boy," she continued, "I was thinking James, after your dad." I had not thought about my father in a long time. He had died when I was so young, and my memories of him were faded and fragmented. But I knew he'd been a good man, a loving father, someone who would have been proud of the life I had built. "James," I repeated. "I like that. So, we have a plan," Jennifer said, smiling. "Grace or James." "We have a plan," I agreed. The baby came on a cold February morning, 3 weeks early and in a rush. Jennifer's water broke at 2 a.m, and by 6, we were holding our daughter, Grace Margaret, 7 pounds and 2 ounces, with a full head of dark hair and her mother's green eyes. She was perfect. My mother came to the hospital as soon as visiting hours started, Richard in tow. She took one look at the baby and burst into tears. "She is beautiful," she whispered. "Absolutely beautiful. We named her after you," Jennifer said, and my mother looked up, shocked. "After me?" she asked. "Grace," I said. "Grace Margaret." We wanted her to have a name that meant something, a name that represented family and love and second chances. My mother cried harder, holding the baby close, and I saw Richard put his arm around her shoulders. "This is the greatest gift you could have given me," she said. Thank you both." Watching my mother hold my daughter, seeing the love and joy on her face, I felt a sense of completeness I had never experienced before. This was what it was all about. This was what mattered. Family, love, forgiveness, moving forward together. No matter what challenges came your way. The first few months with Grace were exhausting and wonderful in equal measure. We took turns with the night feedings, stumbling through the darkness to warm bottles and change diapers. We learned her cries, what each one meant, how to soothe her when she was fussy. We marveled at every tiny milestone, every smile, every new sound she made. Jennifer was an amazing mother, patient and loving and completely devoted. I watched her with Grace and fell in love with her all over again. This was the woman who had risked everything to save my mother's life. This was the woman who had fought for our marriage when it would have been easier to walk away. This was the woman I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. One night, when Grace was about 4 months old, I woke up to find Jennifer's side of the bed empty. I got up and found her in the nursery, sitting in the rocking chair with Grace in her arms. The baby was asleep, but Jennifer was just holding her, rocking slowly, staring down at her face with an expression of pure love. Could not sleep? I asked softly from the doorway. Jennifer looked up and smiled. I just wanted to hold her. She said, "Sometimes I still cannot believe she is real, that we made her, that we get to be her parents." "I know what you mean," I said, coming into the room and kneeling beside the chair. "She is pretty amazing." "We are pretty amazing," Jennifer said. "Look at what we have built. Look at what we have overcome. A few years ago, I thought I might lose you. I thought I had destroyed everything. And now we have this. We have her. We have a family. We always had a family," I said. "Even in the hard times. Even when we were struggling. We never stopped being a family." "You are right," she said. "But now it feels complete. Like all the pieces have finally fallen into place." I reached out and touched Grace's tiny hand, and her fingers curled around mine instinctively. "This is what it was all for," I said. "All the pain, all the struggle, all the hard work. It brought us here, to this moment, to her. I would do it all again," Jennifer said, "every bit of it, if I knew it would lead us here." "Me too," I said, "without question." We sat there together in the quiet nursery, the three of us, and I felt a peace settle over me. Life was not perfect. It never would be. There would be more challenges, more struggles, more moments when we would have to choose each other over the easy path. But I knew now that we could handle it. We had proven that we could survive anything as long as we faced it together. As Grace grew, she became the center of our world. She was a happy baby, always smiling, always curious about everything around her. My mother and Richard were constant presences in her life, coming over several times a week to help out and spend time with their granddaughter. Watching my mother with Grace, seeing the bond between them, made everything we had been through feel worthwhile. On Grace's first birthday, we threw a party in our backyard, the same space where we had celebrated my mother's engagement years before. Friends and family gathered, and the air was filled with laughter and the smell of birthday cake. Grace sat in her high chair, cake smeared all over her face, giggling as everyone sang to her. Jennifer stood beside me, her arm around my waist, and I pulled her close. "Can you believe it has been a year?" she asked. "It feels like yesterday and forever ago at the same time," I said. She looked up at me, and I saw tears in her eyes. Happy tears this time. "Thank you," she said, "for giving me this, for giving us this." "Thank you," I said, "for never giving up, for fighting for us even when I was too hurt to fight for myself." We kissed, and I heard someone whistle and laugh. We pulled apart, grinning, and turned back to the party, to our daughter, to our family. This was our life now. Messy and complicated and absolutely perfect. That night, after everyone had gone home and Grace was asleep in her crib, Jennifer and I sat on the back porch again, in the same spot where we had sat so many times before. The stars were bright overhead, and the air was warm with the promise of summer. "Do you remember that day you found the bank statement?" Jennifer asked. "The day everything came out?" "How could I forget?" I said. "It was one of the worst days of my life." "Mine too," she said. "I was so scared. I thought I had lost you. I thought I had destroyed everything we had built together." "But you had not," I said. "We were just going through a test, a really hard test. But we passed." "We did," she agreed, "and we are stronger for it." I thought about that day, about the cold coffee and the yellow curtains, and the feeling that my world was ending. And then I thought about everything that had come after, the pain and the healing, the anger and the forgiveness, the struggle and the triumph. It had all led us here, to this moment, to this life. "I would not change anything," I said suddenly. "If I could go back and make it so you had told me the truth from the beginning, so we had never gone through all that pain, I would not do it, because then we would not be who we are now. We would not have learned what we learned. We would not be as strong as we are. Jennifer looked at me, surprised. Really? She asked. You mean that? I do, I said. Every word. What we went through made us better. It made us appreciate what we have. It made us understand what really matters. She leaned her head on my shoulder, and I felt her relax against me. I love you, she said, more than I can ever express. I love you too, I said, always and forever. We sat there in the darkness, listening to the sound of night, feeling the warmth of each other's presence. Inside, our daughter slept peacefully, dreaming whatever dreams babies dream. My mother was at home with Richard, probably already asleep, content in her second chance at love. And Jennifer and I were here together, having survived the storm and come out stronger on the other side. Life was not perfect. It never would be. There would be more challenges ahead, more moments when we would have to choose between the easy path and the right path. But I knew now that we would face them together, that we would always choose each other, that we would always find a way through. Years passed, and Grace grew from a baby into a toddler, then into a little girl. She had Jennifer's green eyes and my dark hair, and a personality that was entirely her own. She was curious and fearless, always asking questions, always wanted to explore. She adored her grandmother, and the two of them had a special bond that made my heart swell every time I saw them together. My mother's health remained good, the surgery having given her many more years than she might have had otherwise. She and Richard were happy together, traveling and enjoying their retirement. They took Grace on adventures, to the zoo and the museum and the park, creating memories that I knew my daughter would carry with her forever. Jennifer and I continue to work on our marriage, never take it for granted, always making sure to communicate and be honest with each other. We had learned our lesson the hard way, and we were not about to forget it. We went on date nights, just the two of us, remembering what it was like to be a couple and not just parents. We talked about our dreams and our fears, our hopes for the future. We made plans together, always together. One evening, when Grace was 5 years old, she asked us a question that caught us both off guard. We were sitting at the dinner table, and she looked up from her plate with those serious green eyes. Mommy, Daddy, she said, why do you love each other? Jennifer and I looked at each other, surprised. That is a big question, sweetheart, Jennifer said. What makes you ask? My friend Emma says her parents do not love each other anymore, Grace said. They are getting divorced. I do not want you to get divorced. My heart broke a little at the worry in her voice. Come here, baby, I said, and she climbed down from her chair and came to sit on my lap. Mommy and I are not getting divorced. We love each other very much. But why? She persisted. What makes you love each other? I looked at Jennifer, and she smiled at me, that same smile that had captured my heart all those years ago. We love each other because we choose to. I said, every single day, we wake up and choose to love each other. Even when things are hard, even when we disagree, we choose each other. And because we have been through a lot together, Jennifer added, we have faced hard times and come out stronger. We have learned how to forgive each other and how to work together. That is what love is, Grace. It is not just a feeling. It is a choice, a commitment, a promise to always be there for each other. Grace thought about this for a moment, her little face serious. So you will always love each other, she asked. No matter what? No matter what, I confirmed. We promise. She smiled then, satisfied, and climbed down to go back to her dinner. Jennifer and I looked at each other across the table, and I saw the same emotion in her eyes that I felt in my chest. Gratitude, love, pride in what we had built together. That night, after Grace was asleep, Jennifer and I talked about the conversation. She is going to remember this. Jennifer said, when she is older, when she is in her own relationships, she is going to remember what we told her. That love is a choice. Then we better make sure we keep choosing each other, I said. So she has a good example to follow. Always, Jennifer said. I will always choose you. And I will always choose you, I said. When Grace was 7, we got a letter from the hospital. The fund we had set up in my mother's name had helped 12 people get the cardiac surgery they needed. 12 lives saved because of our donation, because of the choice Jennifer had made all those years ago to help my mother. We read the letter together, tears streaming down both our faces, overwhelmed by the impact of what we had done. We should tell Grace, Jennifer said. She should know that her family makes a difference in the world. So we sat down with our daughter and explained it to her in terms she could understand. We told her about how Grandma had been sick and needed surgery, and how we had helped her, and how that had inspired us to help other people too. We told her about the fund and the people it had saved. Grace listened with wide eyes, taking it all in. So we are heroes, she asked. Not heroes, I said. Just people trying to do the right thing, trying to help others when we can. I want to help too, Grace said. Can I give some of my allowance to the fund? Jennifer and I looked at each other, our hearts full. Of course you can, sweetheart, Jennifer said. That would be wonderful. From that day on, Grace put half of her allowance into a jar labeled hospital fund. It was not much, just a few dollars a week, but it was her contribution, her way of making a difference. And watching her do it, seeing her learn the value of helping others, made me prouder than I could express. My mother's health took a turn when Grace was 9. She had another heart issue, not as serious as the first, but concerning enough that she needed to be hospitalized for a few days. Jennifer and I took turns staying with her, making sure she was never alone. Grace made her cards and drawings, filling her hospital room with color and love. I am not ready to go yet. My mother told me one evening as I sat beside her bed. There is still so much I want to see. I want to watch Grace grow up. I want to see her graduate, get married, have children of her own. You will, I said, squeezing her hand. You are going to be around for a long time yet. I hope so, she said, because I have never been happier. I have Richard, I have you, I have Jennifer and Grace. I have a family that loves me. That is all I ever wanted. We love you so much. Mom, I said, you know that, right? I do, she said. And I love you too. All of you. You are my greatest blessing. She recovered from that scare. But it was a reminder that time was precious, that we needed to make the most of every moment we had together. We started having weekly family dinners, all of us gathering at our house or at my mother's, sharing meals and stories and laughter. Grace loved these dinners, loved being surrounded by family, loved hearing stories about when I was young, or when Jennifer and I first met. Tell me about when you got married, she would say, and we would tell her about the church with the white steeple, about the flowers and the music, and the vows we had made to each other. We would tell her about how nervous I'd been, how beautiful Jennifer had looked, how we had danced our first dance to a song that still made us both cry. And did you always love each other? Grace would ask, even when things were hard, especially when things were hard. Jennifer would say, looking at me with those green eyes that still made my heart skip a beat. That is when love matters most. When Grace was 12, she came home from school one day with a project assignment. She had to interview someone about a time they had faced a difficult decision and how they had handled it. She wanted to interview us. Jennifer and I looked at each other, and I knew we were thinking the same thing. This was the moment to tell our daughter the truth about what had happened all those years ago. She was old enough now to understand, old enough to learn from our mistakes. We sat down with her that evening, the three of us on the couch, and we told her the story. We told her about the surgery and the money and the lies. We told her about the anger and the hurt and the long road to forgiveness. We told her about the counseling and the hard work and the choice to stay together and fight for our marriage. Grace listened without interrupting, her face serious. When we finished, she was quiet for a long moment. So Mom lied to you, she said finally, looking at me, and you were really mad. I admitted, I felt betrayed. I felt like she did not trust me or respect me. But you forgave her, Grace said. Eventually, I said. It took time. But yes, I forgave her. Why? Grace asked. How did you know you could trust her again? Because I saw how sorry she was. I said. I saw how hard she worked to make things right. And I realized that she had made a mistake. But it did not define who she was. She was still the woman I loved. She was still my partner. And I did not want to lose that. And because your dad understood that I did out of love, Jennifer added, I did not lie to hurt him. I lied because I was trying to protect him and save Grandma. It was the wrong choice, but it came from the right place. So sometimes people make mistakes even when they're trying to do the right thing, Grace said slowly. Exactly, I said. And when that happens, you have to decide if the mistake is bigger than the love. In our case, the love was bigger. Much bigger. Grace nodded, processing this. I am glad you stayed together, she said. I am glad you forgave each other. So are we, Jennifer said, pulling Grace into a hug. So are we. Grace used our story for a project, and she got an A. But more importantly, she learned something valuable about relationships, about forgiveness, about the complexity of love. And I hope that lesson would serve her well as she grew up and faced her own challenges. The years continue to pass, each one bringing new joys and new challenges. Grace became a teenager, moody and dramatic one moment, sweet and loving the next. She tested our patience and our rules, pushing boundaries the way all teenagers do. But through it all, Jennifer and I stood united, presenting a solid front, making decisions together, always communicating. My mother's health remained stable, though she was slowing down as she entered her 70s. Richard took good care of her, and they continued to enjoy their life together. They downsized to a smaller house, something easy to maintain, and we helped them move, packing up decades of memories and starting fresh. Jennifer and I celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary with a trip back to that beach where I had proposed. We left Grace with my mother and Richard and spent a long weekend, just the two of us, walking on the sand, eating at nice restaurants, remembering who we had been and celebrating who we had become. 20 years, Jennifer said as we watched the sunset on our last evening there. Can you believe it? Barely, I said. It feels like we just got married yesterday, but also like we have been together forever. We have been through so much, she said. Good times and bad times, easy times and hard times. But we made it. We are still here, still choosing each other, I said. Every day, she agreed. We renewed our vows that evening, right there on the beach, just the two of us in the setting sun. We did not need a minister or witnesses or fancy decorations. We just needed each other and the promises we were making, to love and honor and cherish, to be honest and faithful and true, to choose each other, always, no matter what. When we got home, Grace wanted to hear all about the trip. We showed her pictures and told her stories, and she rolled her eyes at our mushiness, but smiled too. You guys are so cheesy, she said, but I guess it's kind of sweet. Just wait until you fall in love, Jennifer said. Then you will understand. I am never falling in love, Grace declared. Boys are gross. We will see, I said, laughing. We will see. But of course, she did fall in love. A few years later when she was 17. A boy named Daniel from her school, a nice kid with good manners and a kind smile. We liked him immediately, and watching Grace with him reminded me of Jennifer and me when we were young. The way they looked at each other, the way they laughed together, the way they seemed to fit. Be careful with her heart. I told Daniel one evening when he came to pick Grace up for a date. She is precious to us. I know, sir, he said. I will take good care of her. I promise. And he did. They dated all through their senior year of high school, and when they both got accepted to colleges in the same city. We knew it was serious. They were planning a future together, just like Jennifer and I had done all those years ago. Grace graduated high school with honors, and we threw a party in our backyard, the same space where we had celebrated so many milestones over the years. My mother and Richard were there, older now but still happy, still in love. Friends and family gathered, and the air was filled with pride and joy and hope for the future. I gave a toast, standing on the porch with everyone gathered below. I talked about how proud we were of Grace, how amazed we were by the woman she was becoming. And then I talked about family, about love, about the importance of choosing each other even when things get hard. Your mother and I have not had a perfect marriage. I said, looking at Jennifer, we have made mistakes. We have hurt each other. We have faced challenges that could have torn us apart. But we chose to stay. We chose to fight. We chose each other. And that choice has given us this beautiful life. This amazing daughter. This family that we love so much. So as you go out into the world, Grace, remember that. Remember that love is a choice. And choose wisely. Choose bravely. Choose with your whole heart. There was not a dry eye in the crowd when I finished. Grace came up and hugged me, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you, Daddy," she whispered, "for everything, for showing me what real love looks like. That is all we ever wanted," I said, "to give you a good example, to show you that love is worth fighting for." When Grace left for college that fall, the house felt empty. Jennifer and I wandered through the rooms, not quite sure what to do with ourselves. We had spent 18 years focused on raising our daughter, and now suddenly it was just the two of us again. It is like starting over, Jennifer said one evening as we sat in Grace's empty room. "Just you and me," like it was in the beginning. "Except we are older and wiser now," I said, "and we know what we are doing." "Do we?" she asked, laughing. "I am not so sure about that. We figured it out before," I said. "We will figure it out again." And we did. We rediscovered each other, remembered what it was like to be a couple without the responsibilities of parenthood. We went on trips, tried new hobbies, spent lazy Sunday mornings in bed reading the paper. We talked about our dreams for this next phase of life, about what we wanted to do with the time we had left. "I want to travel more," Jennifer said, "see the world, experience new things." "I want to volunteer," I said, "give back to the community. Maybe work with that cardiac fund we set up, help other families the way we were helped." "We can do both," Jennifer said. "We can do anything we want. The world is ours." She was right. We had worked hard, saved diligently, and now we had the freedom to enjoy the fruits of our labor. We took trips to Europe and Asia, saw things we had only dreamed about. We volunteered at the hospital, helping families navigate the financial challenges of medical care. We spent time with my mother and Richard, cherishing every moment we had with them. My mother passed away peacefully in her sleep when she was 78 years old. She had lived 15 years longer than she might have without that surgery. 15 years filled with love and joy and family. We mourned her loss, but we also celebrated her life, grateful for the time we had been given. At her funeral, I gave the eulogy. I talked about her strength and her courage, about how she had raised me alone after my father died, about how she had taught me what it meant to be a good person. And I talked about the surgery, about the choice Jennifer had made to save her life, about how that choice had changed everything. My mother's life was extended because of love, I said, because my wife loved her enough to make a hard choice, because we all loved each other enough to work through the consequences of that choice. And in those extra years, my mother got to see her granddaughter grow up. She got to find love again with Richard. She got to live fully and completely. That is the legacy of love. That is what it means to be a family. Richard thanked us afterward, his eyes red from crying. "She loved you all so much," he said. "You made her so happy. Thank you for giving me the chance to love her too." After the funeral, Jennifer and I went back to that beach one more time. We scattered some of my mother's ashes there, in the place where we had gotten engaged, where we had renewed our vows, where so many important moments of our life had happened. It felt right, bringing her there, making her a part of that sacred space. We stood at the water's edge, holding hands, watching the waves carry the ashes out to sea. She would have liked this, Jennifer said softly. She would have, I agreed. She always loved the ocean. We were quiet for a while, lost in our own memories. Then Jennifer spoke again. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "The way everything happened? The lies and the pain and all of it?" I thought about it, really thought about it. "No," I said finally, "because it made us who we are. It taught us what we needed to learn. And it gave my mother 15 more years of life. How could I regret that?" "I could not have done it without you," Jennifer said, "without your forgiveness, without your willingness to work through it with me. And I could not have done it without you," I said, "without your courage to make the hard choice in the first place. We did it together. We always do everything together." "Always," she agreed. Grace graduated from college and got engaged to Daniel. They planned a wedding the following summer, and Jennifer and I threw ourselves into helping with the preparations. It was a joyful time, full of excitement and anticipation. Grace was radiant, so happy and so in love, and it made my heart full to see her that way. The wedding was beautiful, held in the same church where Jennifer and I had gotten married. Grace wore a white dress that made her look like a princess, and Daniel could not take his eyes off her. When they said their vows, promising to love and honor and cherish each other, I felt tears streaming down my face. Jennifer squeezed my hand. "They're going to be okay," she whispered. "They have a good foundation." "They do," I agreed. "We taught them well." At the reception, I danced with Grace, a father-daughter dance that made everyone cry. She looked up at me with those green eyes, so much like her mother's, and smiled. "Thank you, Daddy," she said, "for everything, for showing me what a good marriage looks like, for teaching me that love is worth fighting for. You are going to have a wonderful life," I said. "You and Daniel. I can feel it." "I hope so," she said. "I hope we can be as happy as you and Mom." "You will be," I said. "Just remember to choose each other. Every day. Even when it is hard. Especially when it is hard." "I will," she promised. "I will." Jennifer and I grew old together. Our hair turning gray. Our bodies slowing down. But our love never wavering. We had been through so much, survived so much, and it had made us unbreakable. We knew each other's flaws and loved each other anyway. We knew each other's strengths and celebrated them. We were partners in the truest sense of the word. We became grandparents when Grace and Daniel had their first child, a little boy they named James, after my father. Holding him for the first time, seeing Grace as a mother, feeling the weight of this new generation in my arms, I was overwhelmed with emotion. This was a continuation of our story, the legacy of the choices we had made, the love we had fought for. "Look at what we made," Jennifer said, standing beside me, looking down at baby James. "Look at what our love created." "It is pretty amazing," I agreed. "All of it. Every bit of it." We spent our retirement years traveling and volunteering and spoiling our grandchildren. Grace and Daniel had 2 more children, a girl named Margaret after my mother and another boy named Richard after my stepfather. Our house was always full of noise and laughter when they came to visit, and I loved every chaotic moment of it. One evening, when we were both in our 70s, Jennifer and I sat on our back porch, the same spot where we had sat so many times over the years. The stars were bright overhead, and the air was cool with the promise of fall. We held hands, our fingers intertwined, comfortable in the silence. "Do you remember that day?" Jennifer asked. "The day you found the bank statement?" "How could I forget?" I said. "It was the day that changed everything." "It was," she agreed, "for better or worse." "For better," I said firmly. "Definitely for better." She looked at me, surprised. "Really? Even with all the pain it caused?" "Even with that," I said, "because it forced us to confront things we might have ignored otherwise. It made us stronger. It made us better partners. It taught us how to really love each other, not just in the easy times, but in the hard times too." "I am glad you feel that way," she said, "because I have carried guilt about it for all these years, wondering if I made the right choice, wondering if I hurt you too badly." "You made the only choice you could make," I said. "You saved my mother's life. And yes, you hurt me, but you also show me what real love looks like. Love that is willing to sacrifice. Love that is willing to fight. Love that is willing to do the hard thing, even when it costs you everything." She started crying then, soft tears that caught the starlight. "I love you," she said, "so much, more than I can ever say." "I love you too," I said. "Always have, always will." We sat there for a long time, holding hands, watching the stars, feeling the weight of all the years we had shared, the good times and the bad times, the laughter and the tears, the mistakes and the forgiveness. All of it had brought us here, to this moment, to this life we had built together. "I would not change a thing," I said finally, "not one single thing." "Me neither," Jennifer said, "not one thing." And as we sat there in the darkness, surrounded by the life we had created, the family we had built, the love we had fought for, I knew with absolute certainty that we had made the right choices. All of them. even the hard ones, especially the hard ones, because in the end, love was not about perfection. It was not about never making mistakes or never hurting each other. It was about choosing to stay, choosing to forgive, choosing to fight for what mattered most. And we had done that every single day for more than 50 years. We had chosen each other. And I would choose her again, 1,000 times over, 1,000,000 times over, for the rest of my life and beyond. That was what love was. That was what family was. That was what it meant to build a life with someone. Not the absence of problems, but the presence of commitment. Not the lack of pain, but the willingness to work through it. Not perfection, but partnership. And as I sat there with Jennifer's hand in mine, the stars shining overhead, the cool breeze on my face, I felt a peace settle over me. A deep, abiding peace that came from knowing I had lived a good life. A life full of love and meaning and purpose. A life that mattered. Not everything had been what it seemed that day I found the bank statement. What it looked like betrayal was actually love. What it felt like the end was actually a new beginning. What it seemed like a loss was actually a gain. Because we had lost money, yes, but we had gained something far more valuable. We had gained understanding. We had gained strength. We had gained a marriage that could weather any storm. And my mother had gained 15 more years of life. 15 years to watch her granddaughter grow up. 15 years to find love again. 15 years to live and laugh and be happy. How could anyone put a price on that? How could anyone say that was not worth the cost? Jennifer had made a choice all those years ago. A choice that had seemed wrong at the time, but had turned out to be exactly right. She had chosen love over rules. She had chosen action over hesitation. She had chosen to save a life, even if it meant risking everything else. And that choice had rippled out through the years, affecting not just my mother, but all of us. Grace, the grandchildren, the 12 families who had been helped by the fund we set up, all of them had been touched by that one decision, that one act of love. That was the power of choosing love. That was the power of doing the right thing, even when it was hard. That was the power of family. I looked at Jennifer, at the woman who had been by my side for more than 50 years, and I felt a surge of gratitude so strong it almost overwhelmed me. Thank you, I said, for everything, for loving me, for loving my mother, for fighting for us, for never giving up. She smiled, that same smile that had captured my heart all those years ago. Thank you, she said, for forgiving me, for choosing me, for building this life with me. We kissed, soft and gentle, a kiss that held all the years we had shared, all the love we had built, all the promises we had kept. And in that kiss, I felt everything, the past and the present and the future, the pain and the joy, the struggle and the triumph, all of it woven together into something beautiful and strong and lasting. This was our story. This was our life. And it was exactly what it was supposed to be, not perfect, not easy, but real and true and full of love. And that was enough, more than enough. It was everything. As the night deepened and the stars grew brighter, Jennifer and I sat together in the comfortable silence of two people who had shared a lifetime. We did not need words anymore. We knew each other too well for that. We could communicate in glances and touches, in the simple act of being present with each other. Inside the house, I could see the photos on the walls. Our wedding day, Grace as a baby, family vacations, graduations, birthdays, holidays, a lifetime of memories captured in frames, telling the story of who we were and what we had built together. Each photo was a moment in time, a piece of the puzzle that made up our lives. And somewhere in that collection was a photo from my mother's wedding to Richard. She was smiling in that picture, radiant with happiness, surrounded by the people she loved. That photo had been taken because of the choice Jennifer made, because of the surgery, because of the love that had motivated everything. I thought about all the people whose lives had been touched by that one decision. My mother, who had lived to see her granddaughter grow up. Richard, who had found love in his later years. Grace, who had grown up with her grandmother's influence and wisdom. The grandchildren, who would hear stories about the great-grandmother they might never have known. The 12 families who had been helped by the fund, all of them connected by a single thread of love and sacrifice. That was the legacy we were leaving behind. Not money or possessions or achievements, but love. The kind of love that sacrificed. The kind of love that forgave. The kind of love that endured. That was what would outlast us. That was what would continue on through Grace and her children and their children after them. "We're going to be okay," Jennifer said softly, breaking the silence. "Whatever comes next, we're going to be okay." "I know," I said, "because we have each other. We always have each other." "Always," she agreed. And as we sat there under the stars, I realized that this was the moment I had been working toward my entire life. Not some grand achievement or milestone, but this simple, perfect moment of peace and contentment. This feeling of being exactly where I was supposed to be, with exactly who I was supposed to be with. Life had not turned out the way I expected. It had been harder and more complicated and more painful than I ever imagined. But it had also been more beautiful and more meaningful and more full of love than I ever dreamed possible. And I would not trade it for anything. Not for a life without problems. Not for a life without pain. Not for a life without the hard choices and the difficult moments. Because those things had shaped us. They had made us who we were. They had taught us what really mattered. And what mattered was this moment, this love, this life we built together, brick by brick, choice by choice, day by day. Jennifer leaned her head on my shoulder, and I wrapped my arm around her, pulling her close. We sat like that for a long time, watching the stars wheel overhead, feeling the earth turn beneath us, knowing that we were part of something bigger than ourselves, part of a story that had started long before us, and would continue long after we were gone. A story about love and family, and the choices we make. A story about forgiveness and second chances, and the power of commitment. A story about two imperfect people who chose each other, again and again, through all the ups and downs of life. Our story, and it was beautiful. The night grew colder, and eventually we went inside, hand in hand, ready for whatever tomorrow would bring, because we knew now that we could handle anything as long as we faced it together. We had proven that over and over again throughout the years. As I locked the door and turned off the lights, I took one last look around our home. The home we had filled with love and laughter and memories. The home where we had raised our daughter and welcomed our grandchildren. The home where we had fought and made up and grown old together. This was our sanctuary, our safe place, the physical manifestation of everything we had built together. And it was perfect, not because it was fancy or expensive, but because it was ours, because it held our story within its walls. We climbed the stairs to our bedroom, moving slowly, our bodies not as quick as they once were, but our spirits still strong. We got ready for bed in the comfortable routine we had developed over decades, each of us knowing exactly what the other needed, moving in harmony. As we lay in bed, the darkness soft around us, Jennifer reached for my hand. "I am glad it was you," she said. "I am glad I got to spend my life with you." "Me too," I said. "There is no one else I would rather have gone through all of this with." "Even the hard parts?" she asked. "Especially the hard parts," I said, "because they made the good parts even better. They made us appreciate what we have." She squeezed my hand, and I felt the familiar warmth of her touch, the comfort of her presence. We had held hands like this thousands of times over the years, in joy and in sorrow, in celebration and in grief, in anger and in forgiveness. Our hands have been joined through it all, a physical reminder of the bond we shared. "I love you," she whispered into the darkness. "I love you too," I whispered back. "Forever." And as we drifted off to sleep, our hands still clasped together, I felt a deep sense of gratitude wash over me. Gratitude for this life. Gratitude for this woman. Gratitude for every moment, good and bad, that had brought us to this place. Not everything had been what it seemed, but everything had been exactly what it needed to be. Every challenge had taught us something. Every struggle had made us stronger. Every choice had led us here, to this moment of peace and love and contentment. And that was the greatest gift of all. Not a life without problems, but a life filled with love. Not a journey without obstacles, but a journey taken together. Not perfection, but partnership. Not ease, but endurance. That was what we had built. That was what we had fought for. That was what we had chosen, again and again, for more than 50 years. And it was worth it. Every sacrifice, every tear, every moment of doubt and fear and pain. It was all worth it for this. For us. For the life we had created together. As sleep claimed me, my last thought was of Jennifer, of her smile and her strength and her unwavering love, of the choice she had made all those years ago that had set everything in motion, of the courage it had taken to do what she thought was right, even knowing the cost. She had saved my mother's life. And in doing so, she had saved our marriage. She had saved our family. She had saved us. Not everything is what it seems. Sometimes what looks like betrayal is actually love. Sometimes what feels like an ending is actually a beginning. Sometimes the hardest choices lead to the greatest blessings. And sometimes, if you are very lucky, you find someone who loves you enough to make those hard choices. Someone who will fight for you and with you. Someone who will choose you every single day, no matter what. I had found that someone, and I had chosen her back. Every day for more than 50 years. And I would keep choosing her for whatever time we had left, because that was what love was. Not a feeling that came and went, but a choice that endured. Not the absence of problems, but the commitment to work through them. Not perfection, but partnership. And we had that. We had built that. Together. And it was everything.